Welcome to the Inclusive Success video series, conversations with leaders and change makers about their career journeys and actionable insights as to how we can all drive deeper levels of diversity and inclusion across our teams and businesses. I'm delighted to be joined today by Madhuparna Datta, Application Engineering Director at Cadence Design Systems. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So to get us started, let's kind of ground ourselves with what does inclusive success mean to you?
Absolutely. So I think that's an excellent question to start off from. So for me, inclusive success literally means that your success is not just about what you are achieving. It's about, are you able to contribute to the success of others around you? Whether it be your co-workers, the team that you're working in, your customers, everyone. So it cannot be a me philosophy. It has to be more about how do we grow the pie so that each one of us can be successful in our own metrics, because everyone has got different metrics of how they measure their success. How do we acknowledge that everyone should feel acknowledged for what they have brought to the table, and they also get space to grow in their respective fields?
I like that analogy with the pie, bit of baking and how to
Exactly.
make something.
See, because many a times I think people believe there is this static pie. So the only way you can get more is by taking away someone's share. And I think that is what sometimes just blinds us out to the fact that, look, whoever you're interacting with at the other end is also a human being. Why don't you behave in the same way as you would like others to treat you? That simple philosophy.
And tell us a little bit about your career journey. We were talking earlier about, move over to the UK
Oh,
and the wonder of the fabulous weather that we have over here. But
Exactly.
tell us about how you've got to where you are today.
Again, there's a very interesting background to this. I actually got into engineering because my father was an engineer, and my mom was a doctor of medicine. So when I was growing up, in my mind, I thought there were two things that I could do. Either I could become a sort of a doctor of medicine, or I could do engineering. And because I found maths easier than learning all the Latin names of the different phyla and everything like that, I thought that, you know what, why don't I go into engineering? And the other thing which really helped me was my elder sister was also an engineer. So it sort of paved the path for me. And so that's how I went into engineering. And when it came into building my career, I was quite lucky in the sense that at that point of time, the Center for Development of Telematics was running this, the scholarship scheme, you could call it, or a graduate apprenticeship scheme, whereby if you were the top two rank holders for electronics in certain regional engineering colleges, they gave you the opportunity to join CDOT as a graduate engineer trainee. So because I had topped my electronics branch in my regional engineering college, so I was able to sort of directly get into CDOT as a graduate engineer trainee. And I actually became a telecom hardware designer. So I have literally, you could say, built the front end card of a system of PCBs, which eventually goes into like a telecom exchange. And it was, I have to say, those initial 3-4 years where the time where I learned the most, because I learned that what you study in academics is very different from what you have to do when you come into the industry. And I have to say, I really thank my mentors at that point of time who really, took a sort of a greenhorn, sort of just right out of university, sort of an engineer, and they actually made me into a fully working engineer. Then I sort of made my way to Cadence in 2003, and I've been there for 22 years.
Congratulations on recent anniversary, yeah?
Thank you. And I think one of the reasons is because I've always got, different opportunities. So I have not stayed in the same business unit. So for example, say I joined in the silicon package, board co-design side of things because I had a PCB design sort of a background. But then over time, I could sort of go to the digital IC side of things. And even that is actually a very interesting, you could say, anecdote. So when I joined Cadence, I had a lovely manager, Atanu Mukherjee. He's now retired. And what he realized was that I was very academically inclined. Like I liked increasing, building upon my knowledge, and learning new things. And at that point of time, Cadence India was running a program where they were sponsoring your masters in VLSI design, tools and technology from IIT Delhi, the Indian Institute of Technology Delhi, which is a very well renowned sort of engineering institute all over the world. And he's the one who suggested, why don't you go about and apply for this, and your Cadence will be there to support you, and so on and so forth. And after having done, the first semester, which is like, say, around 4 months of that degree course, I lost my mother, and that was a big shock to my system because it was like the first time, something like this was happening to me. And again, he really supported me really well. He understood that I needed my time. And in a way, being so busy with work and studies sort of helped me get over that perhaps a bit more quicker than, it would have happened. He also realized that there were times when I was actually working from something like, say, 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. because I was supporting some US projects. And then after that, I would be going to my university to study.
Wow.
And he realized that this could not go on
Yeah.
for long. And he's the one who actually sort of sat down with me. He understood that most of the courses that I was doing were on the digital IC side of it. So he sort of looked around and he helped me go through a migration, like in the sense to go from the silicon package board co-design side of things to the digital IC side of things. And he also ensured that I was mainly working on European projects. And the reason this helped me was because I could then go to university in the morning, do my classes. Then I could go to office and then, complete my work schedule and be home in time, like say around 8 p.m. or so, and get a good night's sleep and everything. So again, hats off to him. And the only way I could thank him was that I eventually, topped the VLSI design tools and technology course. So, for example, say you have to sit the same exams as full timers. It's just that you get 3 years instead of having to do it in 2 years. So, in my class, I was able to get a CGPA of like, say, 9.435 or something like that, and sort of top the class. And, I was able to say that, thanks a lot to my managers, my peers, and everyone for having supported me through that journey.
Wow. You sound like that was an incredibly intense period, and also very
Yes.
accomplished with the results
Exactly.
on the. So,
Yes.
what advice would you give to your younger self? And I suppose from a career perspective, maybe, but it sounds like you also had a lot of very inclusive support.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, but any kind of guidance you give your younger self looking back?
Absolutely. So I think when I was just entering into the industry, I was under the misconception that perhaps I was asking dumb questions. What I actually did not realize is I was just revealing to others that I was curious about certain things. I wanted to know more about things. And I think uh, they were just more than happy to help me out, trying to figure out what the things are all about, etc. So I think the other thing that I also would like to advise to younger people is, don't try to fit into a culture, if that makes sense. You don't have to imitate someone else who you believe is more successful, or try to be someone else. What really helps is the fact that you all have gone through your own set of living experiences, and that has shaped your viewpoints and the way you approach issues, how you handle them. That is where you bring value in. So, whenever you tackle an issue, don't try to see, oh, how would someone else tackle it? Just think that, okay, if this is me, this is the knowledge I have, how would I actually go about trying to resolve this issue? Because who knows, you might be coming up with a completely innovative solution which no one else has actually thought of. So actually, your biggest plus point is the fact that you are different from others around you. Use that, initiative and try to approach problems in your own way.
Yeah, I think that's super solid advice. Being your authentic self, being you
Exactly.
is what people, and also
Exactly.
how tiring and taxing that is to
Oh my God, yes.
not do that. I was
Yes.
certainly guilty of that at the beginning of my career. And yeah, I think it's where people really shine as well, leaning into who they truly are.
Exactly. And I think if you're not authentic, what happens is at the end of the day, you will feel emotionally drained,
Mm.
because you have been trying to act a part. You have not been yourself. And somehow it just, frees you up when you just sort of say that, okay, you know what? Let me be myself. Let me at least try to be open about what is it that drives me. Because perhaps if you mention about the things which interest you, your manager, who is not a mind reader, mind you, will actually get some inspiration as to, oh, you know what? Perhaps I could assign this particular task, and perhaps this is what will ensure that she will be able to deliver to the best of her abilities.
So great point there. So looking at how we can use this within our teams, our companies, what kind of frameworks and practices do you encourage within your team and organization to help drive that authenticity and
Yeah,
inclusive approach as well to drive,
absolutely.
more diversity across our teams?
Yeah. So I think what I realized is that, especially because the field that I am in is highly technical, it would have its own technical jargons. We could just face people out if they don't know exactly what that jargon means. So the first thing that I try to do is to simplify complex things, because I think have always been, let's just say, not a fan of the three-letter acronyms, the TLAs. Perhaps one of the reasons we are using these TLAs, the three-letter acronyms, is because we feel that everyone else around us understands that perfectly. But perhaps that's because you have been working in a certain team for a long time and you have a certain perspective of what that acronym actually stands for. So instead of trying to rely on those acronyms, why not just explain what is it that you're trying to resolve in simple words? Because that is going to give opportunities for others who might not be that familiar with all the environment in which you're trying to phrase that acronym. And they may be like, aha, so this is what you mean. Well, have you tried that? Things of that sort. So I think the first thing I always try to, ensure is that there is some simple explanations to complex issues so that everyone gets a chance to pipe in with their suggestions, and they're not using the fact that, oh, I don't have an experience in this to sort of stop them from airing what could potentially be a good suggestion. And I think also I try to ensure that everyone in the team or everyone who I'm working with, they are getting equal opportunities to at least air their viewpoint as to what could be a good way of addressing certain aspects. I have also realized that sometimes, you're all human, right? You cannot be perfect. So you will make mistakes. So the best thing is to be able to accept that mistake and just say that, you know what, I got it wrong. Sorry about that. Because if you don't do it, then, others will feel that, oh, by the way, I can't fail. Like failure is not acceptable. And that is not how you really rise in, you do not create a successful team with that. I've always felt that you should try to fail fast rather than, just carry on doing it and then suddenly realize that, oh, we missed this thing. So that is what I would say is what I try to do whenever I'm trying to work on a project. Let's simplify stuff out. Let's ensure that everyone has understood it, has had an opportunity to air their opinions as to what needs to be done here. And encourage failures, because it's like, good, now we have found one more way of not doing things. Brilliant. Let's try all the other ways then.
Yeah, excellent. A really important reminder of the power of language used and what you can learn from
Exactly.
those mistakes. Yes,
Yes.
successes too, but equally and possibly even more so from failures and how you can
Exactly.
build and grow from that.
Exactly.
And then to your point and around some making sure you hear all voices. Any kind of tips as to how to encourage those who may be less inclined to bring their voice?
I think this is where probably trying to first understand that other person really helps, because it could be that they may have a different style of communication. It could be that they put in more details in their emails rather than when you try to talk to them directly. Perhaps that is their preferred mode of communication. And if that's the case, then, why not sort of just put in an email that I was just wondering, is there some thing we could do about this issue? And perhaps they might send a very detailed reply on it. Uh, the other thing could be that, look, everyone does not perhaps think at the same pace, is perhaps the best way I can put it. So, but that does not mean that if you are considering other factors before framing your reply, then your reply is any less important than someone who has, just immediately been able to reply on it. So I think it's about the fact that instead of trying to create artificial timelines on certain things, we have to understand that eventually all the work that we are doing is nothing but a process of continuous improvement. So even if you did not employ that method in this project, you can always employ all those suggestions in a subsequent project. So it shouldn't be that, oh, by the way, please send me all your suggestions by 5 p.m. on Thursday. And after that, I will ignore all other suggestions which come in. So I think it's just about understanding that different people will have different ways of interpreting the data. It's up to you as a leader to be able to understand that, okay, have I actually looked at all the perspectives? And then you sort of consciously put in the efforts of understanding if you are perhaps being blinkered in a certain way.
How to optimize all those great inputs and ideas.
Exactly.
And we know that diversity of thought is a real catalyst for innovation. And working in the tech sector, like many other sectors, it really is an ecosystem. So you interact with an enormous number of organizations and partners, customers, etc. What are some of the traits that you see from those businesses that are really driving high levels of diversity and inclusivity across their teams and reaping the rewards of that?
And that's another very good question. So I think there are a few aspects to it. One is about the fact that those organizations actually try to create systems that try to reduce the bias. They also try to see if they can design careers which are sustainable. And I think the third aspect is also about looking into what could be done with the culture so that the people are not just enduring it, they actually are growing. I'll try to explain each of these bits also. So first, when we come onto the system side of it, I think it's very important to have very transparent guidelines, especially on promotion criteria, because some people may just not just understand what are perhaps the expectations that are needed to go to the next level. So I think having that transparency is very important. The second thing is about having equality of opportunities to stretch assignments, because sometimes it's those stretch assignments that actually get you to that next level. um, it's also about ensuring, how are you addressing certain imbalances in the sense that, for example, say when I talk about the second aspect of it, things like, say, do you have potential return to work policies, for people who might have had to leave their career for certain caring responsibilities, etc. Have you thought of the fact that perhaps having hybrid working environments might be better for certain people? So, how do you ensure that you're not penalizing people who are, trying to adopt a more hybrid work environment? Um, Things like, say, how are you ensuring like who is getting the airtime? in the sense who is getting to voice their opinions, who is getting the opportunities. Are you ensuring that everyone has been fairly considered? All of those things are really important. Um, and from just a culture point of view, it's all about understanding that everyone has got something to contribute. So, for example, say, why would you hire someone into your company if you did not believe that they have got something of value to contribute, right? That's like a no-brainer. So once you have taken that decision to hire that person, would it not be better for you to understand what can you do with the culture so that that person can reach their best potential? And because when they reach their best potential, that's when the organization itself is going to flourish. So I think those are the things that come to my mind, at least.
Yeah, that's such an important point. The culture is way more than,
Yes.
3 or 5 bullet
Exactly.
points on a website. So can
Exactly.
you share a little bit about how you've tackled that as a leader within the organization and worked with and through the employee base to help shape and frame those and bring those to life, importantly, as well, beyond those bullet points, as I say?
I think, as I said, for me, it's mainly been about ensuring that the systems is well set up. So one example that I can probably talk about is, let's just say the sheer diversity of interns who have worked in my team. So if I look at, who has been working in my team as interns over the last 7 years, it's really been uplifting to see that it has been very balanced in terms of gender. So I had 3 bright young men, 4 bright young women. They came from 6 different ethnicities. They followed 3 different religious beliefs, and so on and so forth. And I have always felt that this does not just happen by chance. It happens because you become very intentional about, first of all, having a diversified candidate pool. So your candidate slate has to be very diversified. The second aspect is that the interview rubrics itself have to be very structured. So you should be intentional about what is the questions that you're framing to the candidates. And the third part is about the assessment that you are undertaking when you're trying to understand, okay, what do I really rank this candidate against or for? So I think once you actually build that system, believe me, like as long as that system is inclusive, your organization automatically is going to become inclusive because you have ensured that the systems by which you are trying to recruit the individuals is actually quite inclusive.
Excellent. Yeah, so really taking the action to set those systems in place to
Exactly.
support. Yeah, and I'm
Exactly.
sure having a feedback loop to
Exactly.
continually,
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier about the
Yes.
ideas, it's a loop there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and maybe looking on a different perspective, can you share an example where you have faced a challenge, whether yourself or witnessed it with others, maybe, where there has been a blocker or a barrier, intentionally or sometimes unintentionally, to driving more diverse teams?
Absolutely. So I think anyone who has been in a corporate life for a certain amount of time would have witnessed certain behaviors, which I probably call as microaggressions, is the best term I can use. Things like, say, perhaps a colleague unintentionally interrupting someone else in a meeting. Or it could be about someone misattributing an idea to someone else. Or perhaps someone dismissing someone's lived in experiences by just saying, oh, I'm sure they did not mean it that way. Things of that sort, or certain form of exclusionary behavior, like, say, having some inside jokes, etc., which perhaps not everyone understands, and so on and so forth. So I think depending on whether I saw this within my organization or perhaps even at a customer site, or I heard it from someone else in some other organization, um, I have dealt with it in different ways. So if I have been a direct witness of it, I've tried to call it out and sort of just, mention it out. If it is someone else's experience, I think I have usually had a chat with them privately as to, what perhaps might be a good way of dealing with it. And see, people are different. The way they react or how comfortable they are with dealing with certain circumstances is also different. So it cannot be that, oh, by the way, I think this is what you should do. It's about what do you feel comfortable with it? What was it that really upset you? Because, sometimes it's just the word or the tone, and there might be different ways of addressing it. And I think this is where perhaps I would like to call on leaders. One aspect that you should all look at is true allyship. And what I mean by that is, do not just think of being an ally to just, all the people in your organization. Think of how you can be allies for everyone, even people outside your organization. The way you treat them, especially if, they are your vendors, or perhaps they are currently not in a position to be able to reply back, and so on and so forth. So I think try to be true allies with everyone that you're interacting with. And believe me, I understand that we are humans. We make mistakes. Just accept it. If you believe that you have made a mistake, does not matter who it is with. Just accept it, because I think people eventually value your sincerity rather than whether you made a mistake or did not make a mistake, or what you said, and so on and so forth. As long as you are sincere about it, people will forgive a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that's such a important point, the sincerity and
Yes.
speaking up, but finding a way to do that that suits the situation, whether that is as part of a group or a side conversation, and how uh, that can really help people see things differently that they may have not intentionally been doing or be
Exactly.
aware of.
Exactly.
Being a little bit more sight around that.
Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned about driving this internally and externally as well. What's your opinion on having dedicated teams and groups? We have a really very active DE&I group within the organisation. How beneficial do you think these are? And I think typically we organise these within our own entities, organisations. Plenty of scope to do that beyond, especially given the ecosystems that we work in. What's your thought around that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I believe there's a lot of value that ERGs, like employee resource groups, can have, especially if they are given the authority to actually shape policies. And you're absolutely correct that, if you look at it from an internal as well as external aspect of it, one thing is about what you could do within your organization. The other thing is what could you do at least within your industry. And that's where things like, say, the Women in Tech Work side of it is such a brilliant initiative, because almost all the deep tech, you could say, in companies in UK are part of TechWorks. And if we can formulate certain policies which can help them understand that, oh, you know what, you have got this immense talent pool available. Why don't we make use of that in order to ensure that the skill gaps that we currently are facing are getting addressed? And in addition, we are also addressing this culture of burnout that might be because of certain ways we are handling certain aspects of it, especially when things get very intense. So I think especially industry initiatives like Women in Tech Works, and I think that is also where I would have to give a call out even to Society of Women Engineers. So I first attended a VLocal. So V is WE, and that's Women in Engineering. So I attended my first VLocal conference in London in 2022, when we were just getting out of the pandemic. And before that, I had never attended a women-only conference in engineering. I mean, that was an alien concept for me at that point of time, even though I had been in the industry for almost 20 years by that time. Um, and I think what really, stuck in my mind was the fact that here I was going into this conference without knowing anyone at that conference at that point of time. And I was in this, sort of cohort of 250 engineers listening into a keynote, and it did not feel out of place. I felt as if I belonged there. And I think I came out so energized out of that conference that that's how I started thinking of, building up a global affiliate in UK. And that's how the Cambridgeshire SWE affiliate came about. It was the first global affiliate in UK. And I think one thing I definitely wanted to point out is, see, SWE has been, serving its charter since 1950. So it's currently in its 75th year. So one thing I really love about SWE is that it has got very systematic rubric systems for everything. Like, for example, say when it even awards scholarships, it invites people to judge those scholarships, and anyone can, sort of adjudicate those scholarships because the rubrics is very, very intense and complete. Like, it literally says that if you see this, this is 5 points. If you see this is 4 points, and so on and so forth for every metric. And it publicizes this metric so that even those who are applying for the scholarships know exactly what they would be, sort of having to look for when they are trying to fulfill whether you will receive a scholarship or not. So that's why I think I love the fact that they are so systematic. And that's why I mentioned about the transparency and promotion criteria, having rubrics for your interview process, and so on and so forth. Because when you build those systems, believe me, it solves a lot of the other DI aspects that we are talking about.
I love how you talk about the industry efforts as well. In fact, how we met over the
Exactly.
summer at the
Yes.
GSA Women in
Yes,
Leadership
yes.
events,
Yes,
which is just so powerful. And I think
absolutely.
events like that, where actually they're part of industry-wide
Yes.
events, where it's not simply women talking to women
No.
or other
No.
groups talking to other groups collectively. I think that's where we really
Yes.
raise the profile of the topic and ways to go about altering that talent gap, for
Exactly.
instance, that you mentioned. Yeah.
And I think the one good thing about all of these, initiatives is that, for example, say if I again take SWE, it gives you so many leadership opportunities. So, for example, say I could volunteer to be a global ambassador for SWE, and I would actually encourage all engineers to, definitely aspire towards that. And they also actually elect all the senators. So, this year, I was fortunate enough to be elected as a senator for SWE, which is brilliant because the Senate actually also looks into this the future strategy planning for SWE, like what should be the vision and goals of SWE, say 5, 10 years down the line, and how do you reach to those goals. All of that is also part of the SWE Senate remit. And why is this important? Because when you're trying to grow into your career into senior leadership roles, having a strategical mindset is really important. And if you have actually shaped the strategy of an organization which is currently 50,000 strong, believe me, you will understand like what's the process to be followed if you're trying to formulate the strategy for the bigger organizations.
And no more powerful way to learn than actually doing it
Exactly.
in practice as well, and having the support alongside to
Exactly.
get started with that.
Yes.
So we talked a lot about the systems and the frameworks. How about on some of the leadership skills that you really rate, and then maybe some of the traits that are again intentional or unintentional that you think hinder us driving more inclusion across our teams and organizations?
Absolutely. So I'll just state an anecdote in order to sort of, illustrate what my simple philosophy usually has been. So when I was growing up and I used to go to my mom sort of complaining about anything, she had a very simple advice to me. She said that, look, you have been given 2 ears, 2 eyes, and one mouth. What it means is observe, listen, process it, and then perhaps digest it when you are sort of try to compress it into some form when you are sort of talking about it. So this is what I would probably also talk about to new leaders or anyone aspiring to be a leader. You know, try to bring your listening ears to any conversation. So it's not as if just say that yes, I understand. It's about sort of understanding. Why was that point even brought up in the first place? Sort of trying to understand what's the background behind it. So I think the only metric I would use for that is listen more than you speak. Would be perhaps the first golden rule when it comes to leadership, especially when you're an early leader. The second is also understanding the fact that even if you're an early leader, you have got immense power. So use that wisely. What do I mean by that? Like, say, look at how are you running your own meetings? Are you giving everyone the opportunity to be airing their views, their concerns, or is it that you just have a few vocal participants in the meeting? Who are you giving opportunities to? Who are you trying to be intentionally becoming a mentor for? Use those things very wisely because eventually that is what will become your team's culture. So use that power really wisely. And the third part is about, do not try to be perfect. Again, you are a human being. You will make mistakes. So I'll just repeat myself when I say, just admit your mistakes when you make them, because believe me, that helps create an incredible amount of trust. Because it also gives a psychological safety net for your team because they realize that, oh, okay, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from it and trying to ensure that the same mistakes do not happen again and again.
That's psychological safety, a topic we talk a lot about here, and how to nurture and
Yes.
cultivate that.
Yes.
What are some of the efforts that you think really help with building that?
I think they're just the simple things. I'll probably take someone else's phrase in this. When I try to talk to someone about, what do these things mean? They just had a very simple word of advice. They just said that all you have to realize is it's just about being nice. That's all. And what does that entail? Like not trying to be judgmental. Um, Everyone can have a bad day, but that does not mean that defines that person unless and until they're having the same bad day for a long, for quite a number of occurrences. Uh, and also about the fact that realizing that everyone is different. So, first of all, instead of just looking at what they have said or what they have articulated, understanding why they said it in the first place, because there must be something which is making them speak out. So, first understand that foundation, that background piece of it. Then, if you can form a good sort of, you could say, feedback process for it, great. But also don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to know all the answers. This is, I think, one thing I definitely learned as a leader, that you don't have to be the one who has got all the answers. You just have to create an environment where everyone is able to thrive and discover those answers for themselves. For me, that is the gist of trying to create that, that psychological safe place.
You mentioned talent a couple of times here, and obviously we are really keen to fuel the talent pipeline domestically, but also it's a global ecosystem. So what are some of the important steps you think we can take as an industry to help promote all these amazing opportunities and career paths that young people, children can better understand ahead of taking key decisions around topics and subjects that they want to really lean into, and ahead of degrees, etc. So what do you think we can do to better articulate and promote those?
I think sometimes it's about the storytelling aspect of it. What do I mean by that? I think the young people of today, they're looking for mission-driven careers. They're not looking for a 9 to 5 job. That's my sort of sort of feeling on it. What are they looking for? They're looking for, okay, how can I make an impact on this world? And perhaps explaining to them how the work that we are doing can bring this revolutionary changes, whether it be through AI, healthcare, some other aspects of just elderly care. Like, say, for example, say, we always talk about the NHS, about the fact that, oh, we need to have better healthcare for everyone. How about the fact that if you look at the pandemic days, each of us bought that oximeter to sort of take a look at what were our oxygen levels, what was our pulse, and etc. So we learned that actually we should be having devices around us which can make it easy for us to measure our own health and be able to inform concerned people when we cross a certain threshold. I think that is where we should be trying to emphasize that, you can work on creating those devices which will make it even easier to live independently for longer amounts of time, just because you will have more control over when is it that you need to be informing someone and you need to be looked at. The other thing is that I also want to stress is the fact that we need to, broaden the career aspect of it. What do I mean by that? Sometimes we think that being in deep tech means that you have to become a PhD in some subject, whereas that might not be the case. So I think it's all about amplifying the fact that there is this plethora of opportunities. And as long as you are someone who is curious about the things around you, you want to solve things, help others, you have got an equal sort of place in this industry. And I think that's the reason why, you talked about the ecosystem part of it. So I think building that ecosystem with organizations like, say, the UK ESF, the stuff that they are doing in order to encourage young minds to come into the electronics industry, that's phenomenal. They are trying to have schemes like, say, girls in electronics, where they are going to secondary schools. They're trying to, educate that, oh, wow, this is such an interesting field. Have you tried to just do a tryout of this electronics kit and see if this is something which interests you? So I think these are the things which will really help bring more and more young people, especially the recent, DSIT scheme, like the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. They came up with the student bursary program, which I think is fabulous. It's all about saying that, look, if you're interested in a subject, you don't have to worry about the financial aspect of it as to how do you fund your studies. All you need to do is just state that you're interested in pursuing it. And the government will try to give you the necessary bursaries so that you can pursue your interest and also have a really great career in this field.
Well, as a marketeer, I can absolutely echo your sentiment there around the storytelling and the power of that. So it's not technology for technology's sake, but what is it actually
Trying to solve.
exactly the problems it's solving, the
Yeah.
needs it's meeting, what's the value and the benefits and that
Exactly.
mission
Exactly.
statement around that.
Exactly. For example, say climate tech. There's so much stuff that we can do around it. And I would say probably space technology is going to be really a booming area as far as I can see the future.
Yeah. Well, on that very topic, the future. So, what gives you hope for the future on the topic of inclusivity and more diversity across our workforces at large?
I think what actually encourages me is the fact that I see that young people are happy to ask questions. It's almost as if they are questioning the very status quo, if that makes sense. They don't even have to think of diversity because that's part of their lives, if that makes sense. And they also actually want to solve problems. I think that is what they are really good at. They are like, okay, why is it that I'm not able to do this? What is it that is stopping me from doing it? That's the sort of mind process which really, gives me a lot of hope. And also the other thing which gives me a lot of hope is the fact that I think organizations themselves are realizing that the opportunities that they could potentially sort of go for will only increase if they get more and more good talent in this space. So they themselves are hungry for getting better talent into this space. And I think that is what will ensure that in the future we see, all types of people sort of trying to make it into this space, and also will see this space coming up with really innovative solutions. Um, and the reason I think this is also very important is that all sorts of products that we are coming up with, it's supposed to be addressing the entire population. So unless and until the engineering minds which are creating those products are actually a fair representation of that population, how do we ensure that the products that we are actually creating are not unintentionally biased? So I think it's very important from that aspect itself, having products which are able to address the entire population's needs, and also having technologies which are not having any form of unintentional bias, sort of baked into them.
I think that's absolutely essential. So to wrap us up, what single piece of advice would you give the audience? So anybody who's either a sole contributor or maybe a super executive leader, to help us kind of factor in a different mix or a diverse mix of people across organizations.
I think I would just say stay curious, and especially in your earlier days of your career, definitely invest on the technical side of it, because believe me, if your foundation is not strong, things will start coming apart. So definitely focus on the technical side of things, but also look into building your networks. And the reason is because this industry is very fast paced, and it's eventually those relationships that you're developing which will eventually give you the opportunities or open up more doors for you. So all I would say is stay curious, lead with courage, never question as to why you are in this room, because you have got equal amount of sort of privilege to be in this room as anyone else. So don't shy away from asking for visibility for the work that you have done, because as I say, you have got equal right to be in that room as anyone else. So just come over here, stay the course, learn, grow, and then own the space.
Very wise advice. And that imposter syndrome, if I can frame it in that way that you mentioned, I think everybody at some point has
Yes.
that creeping in. So it's a case of
Exactly.
acknowledging it and reframing.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining me today, being so generous in your advice and sharing your journey. I think, being human, we're all human, but
Exactly.
being open and communication and questioning,
Exactly.
not making assumptions, but really getting to understand
Exactly.
the context and the perspective. And
Yes.
daring to fail and learning from that.
Exactly.
to
Fail
take
fast,
success. Yeah.
but also learn from that experience.
And build success from that.
Exactly.
Super. Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.